Hello and warm regards from NEXT IAS team. Welcome to another episode of Daily News Analysis. Today is 11th September and let's see the topics that we are going to cover today. The first topic is from GS Paper 1, Indian Art and Culture, that is Adi Sanskriti. It is a digital platform launched by Ministry of Tribal Affairs for promotion of tribal art forms like dance, culture, etc. The second topic is Himachal Pradesh has become a fully literate state. So we are going to explore why and how the fully literate state status is given to any state. What are the other states which are having this status? The third topic is about the non-tariff barrier. This topic is in the context that the India-European Union trade negotiations are going on, and in this context, this topic has come up. The next point is the shipbuilding industry in India. What are the challenges it is facing and what is the India's vision regarding this industry? Lastly, in the decoded part, we are going to discuss about the India-Sri Lanka relations, the challenges both countries are facing, and what is the significance of India and Sri Lanka to each other. So let's start with the first topic, that is Adi Sanskriti. The first topic is Adi Sanskriti. This topic is relevant from prelims point of view and can come under GS Paper 1, Indian Heritage and Culture and Society topics. Now, what is the backdrop here? The backdrop is that the digital platform to preserve art culture has been launched. So this Adi Sanskriti is basically a digital learning platform for the tribal art forms, preserving their heritage, enabling livelihood and connecting the tribes with the world. So basically what this platform is going to do, the platform is going to preserve the tribal culture. It is going to make people aware about the tribal culture. It is going to connect the tribal culture with the external world. Also, it will provide the livelihood opportunities to the tribal people. So how it is going to be done? It is going to be done because it has three basic components. The first component is Adi Vishwavidyalaya, which is about the Digital Tribal Art Academy. The second is Adi Sampada, which is a repository. That means you are storing something there. So it is a socio-cultural repository. The third one is Adi Haat, that is online marketplace. So first of all, about the Adi Vishwavidyalaya. So in the Adi Vishwavidyalaya, it is going to offer courses in the tribal dance, painting, craft, music and folklore. So that means if you want to learn something, अगर आप कुछ जानना चाहते हैं, आप कुछ सीखना चाहते हैं, कोई नया कोर्स करना चाहते हैं, certification will also be provided in it. So you want to learn some about the tribal dance, tribal art, tribal culture, tribal craft. So you can do a course from this Adi Vishwavidyalaya. You will be provided certification also. The second is Adi Sampada. What is that? Does this mean? It is actually a repository. What is a repository? जहाँ पे आप चीज़ों को store करते हो. So it is a repository of the curated documents across 5 themes regarding the paintings, dance, clothing, textiles, artifacts and livelihood. So there the information about the paintings, dance, clothing, textiles, the artifacts will be stored. So it is basically a repository of the tribal culture. The third one is Adi Haat. In Adi Haat, the tribals will get a marketplace where they can sell their products. Also, consumers are directly connected to them. So consumers and the tribal creators will be directly connected through this Adi Haat, where the consumers can buy the products of the tribal people. And it is going to provide a livelihood opportunity for the tribals, directly connecting with the consumers. Now, what is the significance of this Adi Haat platform? It is a digital platform. So it is going to preserve and safeguard the cultural heritage of the Indian tribal communities. The second is that it is going to promote education and awareness about the tribal traditions. How? It is going to provide through this Adi Vishwavidyalaya. The third thing is it is going to increase the economic empowerment of the tribal people. How it is going to be done? It is going to be done by integrating the tribal communities into a digital knowledge space. Then it will celebrate and showcase the diversity of the India's indigenous legacy, that is India's tribal legacy. Then it is going to position the tribal communities as active contributors to cultural and digital empowerment. So these are the basic significance of this Adi Sanskriti digital platform. Now, based upon the discussion, you have to attempt this MCQ and you have to post your answers in the comment box. The second topic is Himachal Pradesh has become a fully literate state. Now, what is the backdrop here? The backdrop is simple, that Himachal Pradesh has been declared as a fully literate state. What does this mean? This article has come in the Indian Express newspaper on page number 14. Now, how it is relevant? It is relevant from paper GS2, that is in the education part. Also, question can be in the prelims regarding that which of the following states have been declared as a fully literate state, because it is a feat that has been achieved by only 5 states till now. So let's see the news. The news is that on September 8, 2025, Chief Minister of Himachal Pradesh, Shri Sukhwinder Singh Sukhu, declared Himachal Pradesh as a fully literate state in a ceremony known as Fully Literate Himachal Ceremony and Utsav Mela 2025, organized in Shimla. Now, Himachal Pradesh have achieved a literacy rate of 99.3%, which is almost 100%. Still, it has been accorded the status of fully literate state. Now, Indian government, according to Ministry of Education, says that if in any state more than 95% or more than 95% of the people are literate, then that state will be accorded the status of fully literate state. Till now, 5 states and UTs have been accorded this status. At first position is the Goa, at second position is Himachal Pradesh, third one is Mizoram, then Ladakh, and lastly it is Tripura. So these are the 5 states which have been given the status of fully literate state. Now, if we talk about the Himachal Pradesh, at the time of independence, Himachal Pradesh had a literacy rate of only 7%. But political leadership has been very focused upon educating the Himachal Pradesh people. That's why a budget of around 17 to 18%, or you can say around 1/5 of the total budget every year has been allocated to only education. And that's why they have been able to move from 7% to 99.3% of the literacy rate. So that's a feat achieved. Along with that, there are 2 more feats. First one is that it has the highest student teacher ratio. It stands in the first position with respect to student teacher ratio. Secondly, it has a 0 dropout rate. That means no student who has gone to school is dropping out. He is completing his education. He or she is completing his or her education. Now, next thing is, what is the definition of literacy? आप literacy को define कैसे करोगे? So there are 2 basic definitions. One definition is given by Ministry of Education and another definition is given by census. So पहले एक बार census की definition को देख लेते हैं. So according to a census, a person who is aged more than 7 years and is able to read and write with understanding will be known as a literate person. So census कैसे define करता है? कोई भी व्यक्ति जो 7 साल से ज़्यादा एज का है and he is able to write, read and understand will be considered as literate. Now, Minister of Education has also given a definition. वो definition क्या बोलती है? That definition says the ability to read, write, compute with comprehension. If a person is having ability to read, write, compute and with comprehension, then that person will be known as a literate person. This simply means that the person is able to identify the letters, the characters. He is able to understand those letters, alphabets. Thirdly, he is able to interpret them. So he is able to identify, understand and interpret along with able to create. That means able to write. उसके साथ साथ he is having critical life skills. Critical life skills include 2 things. One is the financial literacy. Second is the digital literacy, because those both are important in today's time. I hope you understand what is financial literacy and what is digital literacy. Financial literacy is you are aware about the savings, you are aware about the banking services, you are aware about the insurance services, etc. The digital literacy includes awareness about using gadgets like laptops, using mobile phones, able to use internet, able to utilize the applications that are available. So that comes under digital literacy. So if a person is having all these things, then that person is known as a literate person. This is the first thing. Now, the criteria for declaring any state as a fully literate state, the criteria is very simple. We have already discussed that it should have at least 95% literacy in the state. And literacy कैसे define होगी? According to the definition given by the Ministry of Education, because the status of fully literate state is given by Ministry of Education. Now, if we talk about how has been our performance, so the performance is very simple. The PLFS survey of 2023-24 has given the literacy status as at the national literacy is 77.5%, Himachal Pradesh was 88.8%. Now it has increased to 99.3%. Then comes Goa, Mizoram and Tripura. Now one scheme is known as the Ullas program. It was launched in 2022. Now there is an important role that this Ullas scheme has played in helping Himachal Pradesh to achieve the full literacy status. This Ullas program, the objective is to achieve 100% literacy in the country by 2030, and this basic objective aligns with the Sustainable Development Goal 4 of United Nations. So this Ullas program is launched to achieve the UN SDG 4 goal, that is 100% literacy by 2030. This Ullas scheme focuses on adult learners who are more than 15 years of age through basic reading, writing and arithmetic, and also teaching them life skills like time management, financial transaction, digital use. Then learners must pass a functional literacy numeracy assessment test or FLNAT for certification. So a question can be asked that this particular test is for which thing? This particular test is for achieving certification under the Ullas program to be a literate. Next is the major literacy programs for adult education that have been run in the whole country. So if we see at the time of independence, the 86% of India's population was illiterate, and if you talk about Himachal Pradesh, it was 93%. So 86% of the people of the country were not able to read and write at the time of independence, and now we have to come to a position where more than 80% of our population is now literate according to the recent figure. Now census will be giving the census, the next census that is going to happen in 2026 is going to give us the actual picture. The adult education provides learning opportunities for those who miss the formal schooling. So the adult, when we are saying the major literacy programs for adult education, we are talking about the people more than 15 years of age who have not gone to school. तो उनको कैसे educate करना है, उसके लिए we have run multiple programs. Night schools भी चलाए हैं गवर्नमेंट ने to make them educate, कि दिन में वो काम कर ले और रात को वो पढ़ ले. Now the focus here in the adult education has been basically with the basic literacy, that they are able to read, they are able to write, they are able to identify the characters, so that उनके अंदर एक basic awareness रहे. Since 1951, several programs have been run. Let's see the programs. The first one was launched in 1951-56 was social education focusing on literacy and leadership. In 56, Gram Siksha Muhim for rural literacy was run. Then third program was in 67-68, the farmer functional literacy project was taken up to make the farmers aware. Then in 1975-76, functional literacy for adult women was taken to make the women educated, to make the women literate. Then in 1978, National Adult Education Program was launched. In 1986, Rural Functional Literacy Project and Mass Program for Functional Literacy was launched. Then in 1988, National Literacy Mission Authority was established. In 2019 to 2018, this National Literacy Mission Authority was replaced by the Sakshar Bharat for Adult Education and Skills Program. So this Sakshar Bharat replaced the National Literacy Mission Authority. Then in 2020-2022, Pradhan Padhna Likhna Abhiyan targeting 57 lakh non-literates was launched. And lastly, in 2022, we have this Ullas, understanding of the lifelong learning for all in the society. Now this program is popularly known as Nav Bharat Saksharta Karyakram. This is a centrally sponsored scheme. What is a centrally sponsored scheme? Where the center as well as the state contribute. So the contribution by the center will be 700 crores and by the state will be 337.90 crores. The total allocation is 1037.9 crores. Now the target years are from 5-year program, it is targeting 2022 to 2027. Now it aligns with our recently launched National Education Policy of 2020. Now this scheme introduces online modules to expand access to the adult education resources, because now our digital platforms have become very equipped. That's why we are able to leverage them to promote education in our adults. Now if we see there are 5 basic components in this particular Ullas program. These components include, the first one is foundational literacy and numeracy, जो बेसिक पढ़ना लिखना आपको सिखाया जाएगा और बेसिक कंप्यूटेशन स्किल्स उसमें होंगी. उसके अलावा देयर आर गोइंग टू बी क्रिटिकल लाइफ स्किल्स. दे इन्वॉल्व financial and digital literacy, then commercial skills, how to trade, that will those skills are also involved here. Then healthcare, child care, education, family welfare. So all these are going to be included in the critical life skills. The third one is basic education. It is about equivalency at predatory, middle and secondary level. जो हमें स्कूल में पढ़ाया जाता है उसके लेवल का एजुकेशन भी इसमें इंक्लूड होगा. Then vocational skills for local employment opportunities, and lastly continuing education. That will also be one of the important components of this scheme, which involves lifelong learning in art, social sciences, technology, culture, sports, advanced life skills. Now who will be covered here? The coverage will be non-literate citizens aged 15 years and above in all citizen UTs. So pan India it will be launched. And who are going to be targeted beneficiaries? They will be the people who are more than 15 years of age and who are not literate. Then it is going to target 5 crore learners over 5 years, that is 1 crore learner per year. The tools will include online teaching, learning and assessment systems, then NIC, then NCRT, NIAS are going to help in achieving these targets. Now based upon the discussion, you can attempt this MCQ and you post your answers in the comment box, and we move to the third topic. The third topic, the non-tariff barriers. Now the context here is that the opposition is asking questions regarding non-tariff barriers for agriculture during the European Union Indian Free Trade Agreement negotiations. This topic becomes relevant from GS paper 3 in the economy portion, and a direct question upon the definition of non-tariff barriers, what is it, its concepts, its features, and the elements under it can be asked from you. Now let's see about the news. The news is that the Standing Committee on External Affairs in a meeting has asked question regarding the non-tariff barriers on the Indian agriculture products that are being exported to the European countries including UK. We have seen multiple times the consignments sent to European Unions have been returned back to India carrying the agriculture products like mangoes or other fruits. And as these are perishable items, once they go for this long journey through the ships, they actually get wasted, and it is affecting our farmers. So the Standing Committee on External Affairs have asked questions regarding that what India or how India is going to negotiate regarding the non-tariff barriers that are being put on Indian products. So our area of concern here is what are these non-tariff barriers. We are going to understand here that thing. The European and Indian government are discussing the Indian-European Union Free Trade Agreement. The EU team is led by European Commissioner of Trade Marcos Sefcovic and Commissioner of Agriculture Christophe Hensi. That's why these particular questions are being asked here. Now, if we talk about these European Union and India Free Trade Agreement negotiations, there are basically two areas which are being discussed. The first area is the European Union's Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism, and the second area is the other non-tariff barriers for Indian agriculture exports, which are affecting our exports, which are affecting our export market, which are making our products non-competitive in the international markets. So India के लिए दो concerns हैं. One concern is CBAM, जो Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism European Union का है, that one, and second one is the non-tariff barriers that are being put on the Indian agriculture. Now if we talk about the trade barriers, what are trade barriers? Trade barriers are those things which actually does not allow free flow of goods and services in the international market. कोई भी चीज जो इसकी रुकावट क्रिएट करे इंटरनेशनल ट्रेड ऑफ गुड्स एंड सर्विसेज में, दैट इज नोन एज अ ट्रेड बैरियर. दे आर ऑफ टू टाइप्स. वन इज अ टैरिफ बैरियर, वन इज अ नॉन टैरिफ बैरियर. टैरिफ बैरियर क्या है? when the custom duties or the taxes are increased. For example, US has now put 50% tariffs on India. So that is a kind of tariff barrier. So US ने जो impose किया है 50% tariff on Indian products, that is a tariff barrier. Now second is a non-tariff barrier. What is a non-tariff barrier? Non-tariff barrier वो barriers है which are not related with the tax. There are basically two types. One is technical non-tariff barrier and second one is non-technical non-tariff barrier. Non-tariff barrier include things like you make the rules very strict. When the rules are strict, you can put quota also. You can make the custom procedure a very cumbersome one. वो time taking हो सकता है. When these things happen, or automatically the products are getting phased out. Either they are not able to stand up to that time or up to that quality, or they become costly because the process has been delayed, and due to delay the logistic cost has increased. So those things are included in the non-tariff barrier. If we see WTO कैसे define करता है non-tariff barrier को? The WTO defines the non-tariff barrier as the policy measures other than the ordinary custom duties that can potentially affect the international trade by altering the price or the quantity of the good. Quantity of the good कैसे होगा? जैसे quota system लगा दिया कि only this amount of product, this amount of agriculture can be imported in our country. That is known as a quota system. So either it can affect the price or it can affect the quantity of the goods. Similarly, UNCTAD or United Nations Conference on Trade and Development defines this non-trade barrier as the policy measures other than the ordinary custom tariffs that can potentially have economic effect on international trade in goods, changing qualities traded or price or both the things. So basically taxes के अलावा जो भी policy measures लिए जाएंगे, they are going to be considered as non-tariff barrier if they are affecting the export or import of goods in a negative manner. Now, technical trade barriers क्या होंगे? What are the technical trade barriers? They include regulation and standards related to product quality, health, safety and environment. So basically it is related with the standards that you are putting. So these are known as technical barriers. For example, it is said that the plastic products less than 5 nanometers will not be allowed in the country. So that is a technical barrier. कि कहीं ना कहीं you are putting some restrictions with respect to the quality of the product in terms of its quality. It can be in terms of health also. Then there are certain products you can say कि any plastic which is non-biodegradable will not be allowed in our country. So it has been put under the environmental standards. So if you are putting any kind of policy measure or any kind of restriction that is related with technicality, that is known as technical trade barrier. It includes examples like sanitary and phytosanitary measures. For example, European Union bans pesticide residues in the fruits. So if there are pesticide residues in any of the fruits, the whole consignment will be sent back. Then there are technical barriers to the trade like packaging, labeling, certification requirements. The next is the environmental standards, जैसे carbon footprint rules. For example, European Union has put on us the CBA, carbon border adjustment mechanism, that has been put on the products. So these come under the technical barrier. The purpose here is that to protect consumer health, environment, safety, though they may act as disguised restrictions on the trade. For example, India has also put a technical barrier on the Chinese firecrackers, that the phosphate linked firecrackers will not be allowed in the country. So these kind of barriers are known as technical trade barriers. The second is non-technical trade barriers. They involve administrative, qualitative or financial restrictions that do not relate to the product standards. एक तो हो गया जो प्रोडक्ट स्टैंडर्ड्स का रिलेट करेगा, दैट कम्स अंडर द टेक्निकल ट्रेड बैरियर. जो अदर चीजें हैं जैसे कस्टम प्रोसीजर वेरी कम्बरसम, द डॉक्यूमेंट रिक्वायरमेंट इज वेरी थॉरो. So these things, what they do, they delay the whole process. That comes under non-technical trade barrier. See, whenever you are delaying the whole process, you are actually increasing the cost, because when that product has come and it is going to the customs and that those custom documentation is very cumbersome and it is very delayed and time taking, then that particular product is being stored in the ship itself, and storing that product in the ship actually is costly, or storing that in the warehouse is also costly. So that actually increases the logistic cost. When the logistic cost increases, the final product price also increases. So by through this non-technical trade barriers, the price competitiveness is being hampered. It includes examples like import quota. There can be quota also, that for example the government can say ki up to 100 metric tons of wheat we are going to import this year, not more than that. So that is an import quota, a fixed limit on the certain products. Then licensing requirements and permits can also be there. Custom delays and cumbersome documentation can be there. Then subsidies on domestic industries can be there. Voluntary export restraints can also be there. Then the purpose is aimed at protecting the domestic industries or regulating the trade volume. By regulating these things, they are putting restrictions on the trade. So these are known as non-technical trade barrier. So these are the technical and non-technical trade barriers. So what is the impact of these non-tariff barriers? The non-tariff barriers का impact होगा. First of all, the compliance cost is going to increase. There are going to be logistical delays. There is going to be reduced competitiveness of the exporters, particularly from the developing countries, because they are not able to adhere to the standards that have been set by the developed countries. Then it creates unnecessary uncertainty and risk, which actually hampers the small businessmen. So these are the things which impact which are the impacts of the non-tariff trade barriers. Now you are in a position to attempt this MCQ and post your answers in the comment box. Let's move to the fourth topic. The fourth topic is shipbuilding industry in India. Now what is the backdrop here? The backdrop is that India is set to be among the 5 shipbuilding nations by 2047. This topic becomes relevant from GS paper 3 infrastructure in the ports topic. Now let's see what is the news here. The news is that the Minister of State for Ports, Shipping and Waterways, Mr. Shantanu Thakur, has stated that Indian government through Ministry and Director General of Shipping is committed to making India a new hub for shipbuilding. The target is that India has to be among the top 5 by 2047, and by 2030 India should be among 10 maritime nations of the world. Now if we see how far we are in achieving these targets. First of all, if we talk about the global shipbuilding, India's share is only less than 1%, and by 2047 we have to be among the top 5. The second thing, in maritime sector contribution to India's GDP, it is only 4% currently, and we have to increase it to 12% by 2047. The third is maritime sector share in global tonnage of India. It is only 1%, and we have to improve from the 16th position that we are holding currently to the 5th position by 2047. So we have to increase our contribution in the global shipping tonnage also. And then if you talk about the Indian seafarers in the global workforce, it is only 12%, and we have to double it, and we have to increase it to 25%. So in the terms of the workforce that we are having with respect to sea, we have to double it. In terms of the GDP contribution done by the shipping industry to the India's GDP, we have to make it 3 times. We have to increase our share in the global tonnage, and we have to reach from a position of 16th to the position of 5th by 2047. Lastly, cargo handling. India handles 1600 metric tons of cargo every year, and we have to make it 10,000 metric tons by 2047. So almost we have to make it 7 times. So these are the targets or goals that have been set by the government to in the context of shipping sector. Now, if we talk about the shipbuilding industry sector of the country, one is shipping sector, one is the shipbuilding sector, where we are building new ships. And ships involve the naval vessels as well as the commercial vessels. It also involves the tourist vessels. So it can be a big vessel, it can be a small vessel, it can be an armed vessel also in terms of navy. Now if we talk about the challenges that we are facing, the first and foremost challenge is technological and workforce challenge. We have outdated technologies at our shipyards. जो मशीनरी हम यूज़ करते हैं, जो चीज़ें हमारे पास वो सारी outdated हो गई हैं. That's why it limits our capacity to build large high-tech vessels. So we are just building those old style vessels, and we are not able to improve our vessels to a high grade quality. The second is significant shortage of skilled workforce. It is hindering India's ability to compete globally, because if we are not having workforce, then how we are going to increase our capacity in terms of shipbuilding. Then third is lack of advanced tools like robotic welding and digital designs. Already our technology is outdated. उसके ऊपर से if we are not having advanced tools also, these advanced tools help in improving the efficiency, and when the efficiency improves, it improves the quality as well as it makes the output more. It increases the output. So on the technological and workforce front, we are lacking on multiple things. Now next is cost and supply chain issues. First and foremost is the financial constraints. See, shipbuilding is a very capital intensive industry. Secondly, it has a long gestation period also. So finding investors becomes very difficult. And when the investors come, they see this as a risky venture. That's why the cost of financing also increases. So whatever finance this industry gets, this finance is at a higher cost. So first of all, the finance is costly. Also, there are challenges of long-term financing. So affordable and long-term financing is one of the challenge in this shipbuilding industry. The second is the higher operational cost for shipyards, Indian shipyards. वो क्यों है? Outdated technology है, दूसरा expensive financing है, lack of access to domestically produced high grade materials like marine steel. We have to import that steel from outside, and that's why we find it costly. So our operational cost is also high. Why? First of all, we are having obsolete technology, we are not having advanced technology. Secondly, we are the financing that we get is also costly. Thirdly, we are not having the domestic production. We have to rely upon the imports for special materials like marine steel. Then import dependency, we have already discussed. India imports essential items such as engine, navigation equipments and specialized materials, leading to higher cost and delays, because when we order something, it takes time to be delivered to us. So we need to develop our domestic manufacturing of engines, navigation equipments and specialized materials. Then fragmented chain supply chain is also there. These operate in isolation without any collaborative ecosystem, and it just miss the opportunities for cost efficiencies, because when you are having a whole ecosystem, the cost decreases and you get more specialization. Now when the shipyards are working in isolation, so they have to build their own ecosystem by themselves, and that's why there the cost efficiencies are lost. The next is the infrastructure and market limitations. The inadequate infrastructure. Many ships lack adequate infrastructure such as large dry docks, which restricts type and size of ships that we can build. तो एक तो obsolete टेक्नोलॉजी मशीनरी हम यूज करते हैं, उसके साथ साथ जो कैपेसिटी इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, जो हार्ड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है, दैट इज ऑल्सो नॉट वेरी मच सुटेबल. We are not having large dry docks. That's why we have a limited capacity to produce, as well as we can produce up to a limited capacity of the ships. We cannot produce large ships. Then weak domestic market, because Indian shipping market basically relies upon the used international vessels. वहीं से we buy the second hand vessels rather than buying new domestic vessels. So that also is a challenge, because Indian shipping companies, when they prefer buying cheaper used foreign ships instead of the new ones, it is a market loss for us. So there is the prospects for this industry are also not very good, because we are not finding buyers for the products that are being created in these shipyards. Then underdeveloped MRO system. The ship repair and maintenance capabilities are also underdeveloped. One of the reason is that we have to import a large number of products. That's why their maintenance is being done outside, and we are not having the enough manpower also to sustain this MRO ecosystem. So more or less the ships first of all are coming from outside. Secondly, we are not having an MRO ecosystem. That's why our shipbuilding industry is not very much developed. Then regulatory challenges are also there. There is lack of direct subsidies and regulatory clarity that can hinder the industry's growth and make it harder to compete with the government supported global rivals. So we need to also make our regulatory regime a much conducive for the shipbuilding industry to grow. The next is how the government is supporting, what the government is doing in this regard. The first one is that there is a national shipbuilding mission that India is now pursuing. Now, it is India's strategic plan to transform global shipbuilding and repair hub by 2047. So, by 2047, India has to become a global shipbuilding and repair hub. That is the target that we are having under this national shipbuilding mission. The second is infrastructure status for the shipyards. Whenever anything gets an infrastructure status, that simply means that the financing will become easy for it. The government is also going to be supportive for that. Thirdly, the regulatory regime is also going to be softened for that. So that's why the shipyards have been accorded the status of infrastructure in 2016 so that they can be promoted. Then shipbuilding financial assistance policy have been released by the government. It says up to 30% subsidy for green fuel vessels. ग्रीन फ्यूल वेसल का क्या मतलब है, जैसे मेथनॉल, अमोनिया, हाइड्रोजन रन जो वेसल्स होंगे वो किस में आएंगे, 30 वो आएंगे ग्रीन फ्यूल वेसल्स में. तो दे हैव बीन गिवन अ 30% सब्सिडी. नेक्स्ट इज procurement preference for ships costing less than 200 crores from Indian yards itself. That means if any ship is costing less than 200 rupees, that ship will be procured from the Indian yards only. उनको ही prefer किया जाएगा, so that the domestic market can also be resonated. The third one is infrastructure status granted for easier access to the long-term capital. Already we have discussed that part. Then right to first refusal for government contracts. What does this mean? This simply means कि if we have taken quotation from a foreign vessel supplier and that quotation is being matched by domestic supplier, then we are going to procure from the domestic supplier itself. So अगर foreign supplier के quotations को कोई भी domestic supplier, vessel supplier या ship builder उसको match करता है, then we are going to take the vessel from the domestic ship builder or domestic vessel supplier. So it is going to boost the indigenous shipbuilding and charting of vessels for the government purposes. The policy allows, what does this mean? ये इसका meaning है ये, allows qualified Indian shipyards and opportunities to match the lowest evaluated price offered by the foreign competitors in government tenders for vessel acquisition. Now the scheme has been extended till 2036. Next is, there are some legislative reforms that are coming up, and in the recently concluded monsoon session also we saw that the acts were passed. So Major Ports Authority Act, National Waterways Act, Inland Water Vessels Act, Recycling of the Ship Act, Coastal Shipping Act, and recently passed Merchant Shipping Act have been passed so that our shipbuilding industry can be given a push. Now next you have to attempt this MCQ and you have to post your answers in the comment box, and let's move to the last topic of the day, that is India-Sri Lanka relations. Now what is the backdrop here? The backdrop is that the way forward for Kachi-Thivu Park State disputes, because we are again and again seeing that there are some discussions regarding the giving away of the Kacha-Thivu island as well as Park State. Now this particular article has been written by the attorney of law of Sri Lankan Supreme Court. Now she has given some argument that this Kacha-Thivu island dispute is a settled one, and the giving of this Kacha-Thivu to Sri Lanka was according to the international rules, and it is not a disputed matter no more. It is no more a disputed matter. Now we are going to explore beyond this. We are going to see what is the significance of India and Sri Lanka to each other, also the challenges India and Sri Lanka is facing. But first of all, let's see what's there in the article. Now Prime Minister Mr. Narendra Modi has visited Colombo in April 2025, and he emphasized upon a humane approach balancing livelihood and conservation. Why this has come up? This has come up because many times we are seeing that Indian fishermen are being caught by the Sri Lankan forces and they are either detained or sent back. So there are many instances when Indian fishermen have been prisoned, and the only thing that was there that they were fishing in the international waters, and this happens around this Kacha-Thivu island that is on the Park State. I think you know about the Park State. If this is India and this is Tamil Nadu, and here is the Sri Lanka. So this region is known as the Park State, and here is situated is the Kacha-Thivu island. So Indian fishermen many times they are not able to recognize the international boundaries, and they go for the deep fishing and enter the Sri Lankan territorial waters. And while entering, they face the blunt of the Sri Lankan forces, and they are detained and being imprisoned. Now, Sri Lanka is having its own argument. Sri Lanka says that first of all, Indian fishermen are using trawlers, the deep water trawlers, and they are affecting environment, as well as use of these deep trawlers is is depleting the fishery stock in this particular area. And when this fishery stock is being depleted, then the small fishermen are being forced to go to the deep sea waters, and that's where the dispute arises. So they are saying in nutshell that कि क्योंकि इंडियन फिशरमैन some Indian fishermen are using deep sea trawlers, उसकी वजह से जो small fishermen है, they have to go deep into the sea, and that's where they enter in the Sri Lankan waters and they are being detained. Now, according to the author, the issue of Kachativu Island and fishermen arrest, the conflict today has arisen due to the mechanized bottom trawling by the Indian vessels in Sri Lankan waters, and this is the reason why the small fishermen of the Indian origin have to go to the deep waters, and they actually unintentionally cross the international waters and enter into the Sri Lankan water. Sri Lanka banned the bottom trawling in 2017 because it damages the coral beds, shrimps habitats and fish stocks at the depth at the deeper levels. Now, regarding this Kachativu Island, she has said that it is a small uninhabited island, and the dispute has been settled through the 1974 India-Sri Lanka Maritime Boundary Treaty. The treaty is legally binding under the international law. Now, what can be the future path of resolution? The future path is that we should establish joint fisheries management framework, which are having quotas, seasonal limits, deep fishing incentives. Second, create a joint maritime research station at Kachativu to monitor the stocks and promote the sustainability of that particular area. Sustainability किसके perspective से? क्योंकि this mechanized bottom sea trawling actually affect the fishery stock, the maritime stock. उसकी वजह से it is affecting the livelihood of the fishermen. So it is saying that we should be having a marine research station at Kachativu, which is going to monitor the stocks and is going to promote the sustainability of this particular area. Shift Indian trawler operators towards the deep sea fishing in India's exclusive economic zone to reduce the near shore pressures, so that the small fishermen से उनको ज़्यादा अंदर ना जाना पड़े in the sea. The next is she is talking about that should be multi-level engagement at the level of government, at the level of states and provinces, for example Tamil Nadu and Northern Province. Then people to people engagement should also be there through media sensitization, fisher cooperation, so that we are able to know each other and we are able to understand the challenges which both the countries and both the citizens are facing. Kachativu and Park State issues should become symbols of cooperation, not conflict, and the priorities should be given to ecological sustainability, artisan fisher livelihood, respect for the legal agreements. So this is the arguments given by the author. Now let's come to the India-Sri Lankan relations, the value addition here, that is. So first of all, the Indian-Sri Lankan relation, if we talk about, so India is one of the largest partners of Sri Lanka. India is the only neighbor of Sri Lanka. So India is very, very important for Sri Lanka. So India is Sri Lanka's largest trade partner, leading FDI source and top tourist contributor. So most of the 1/5 of the tourists from India, the tourists that are arriving in Sri Lanka are from India only. So 1/5 of the tourists that reach Sri Lanka are from India, that is 4.16 lakh. Then India and Sri Lanka have signed a free trade agreement in 1998. Also, FDI, India is a key contributor to Sri Lanka in terms of FDI. If we talk about the total investment done by India in Sri Lanka till 2023, because figures are available till this period only, it is 2.25 billion US dollars. Next, Sri Lanka has adopted India's UPI and use of rupee for trade settlement to boost the fintech connectivity. So India's UPI is now being used by Sri Lanka also. Then India has extended grants and concessional loans for Sri Lanka. for the key infrastructure projects and digital projects. Also, at the time of during the time of crisis, India has helped Sri Lanka. India extended a over $7 billion credit line to Sri Lanka and also provided 780 million in grants to the Sri Lanka. During the time of COVID pandemic also, India has helped Sri Lanka through the means of vaccines and medical supply. So, if we see, India is one of the important trade partners of Sri Lanka. India is one of the important development partners of the Sri Lanka. India is one of the important partners in terms of economic activities that are happening in Sri Lanka. The next is defense and security cooperation. India and Sri Lanka both engage in military as well as naval exercises. The military exercise is known as Mitra Shakti, on which the UPSC has also asked question. The naval exercise is known as Slynex. It is an annual exercise, and alternatively the venues are in each country. Then India acts as the first responder for Sri Lanka's in any kind of humanitarian assistance that is required. They say at the time of tsunami, India was the first responder to Sri Lanka's needs because India is the closest one and India has always helped its neighbors, whether it be Sri Lanka or Maldives. Then cultural and civilization ties are also there because both share the same culture and religion. So there are deep-rooted Buddhist and Hindu ties included the sacred Jaya Shri Mahabodhi tree, highlighting the strong cultural bonds between two countries. India supports temple restoration, religious tourism under its cultural diplomacy efforts. The last is Indian community. Sri Lanka hosts around 10,000 people of Indian origin and around 1.6 million Indian origin Tamils are also in Sri Lanka. Now next, how Sri Lanka is important for India, because India's importance is very well stated. How Sri Lanka is important for India? First of all, it is located at the key Indian Ocean trade routes at the Pak state. So Sri Lanka becomes important for India in terms of maritime security. India and Sri Lanka share a lot of share dash in lot of organizations like SAARC is there or IOR is there. Even now India is promoting Sri Lanka to be part of SCO. So Sri Lanka has a central place in India's neighborhood policy, the Mahasagar Mutual and Holistic Advancement for Security and Growth Across Region vision. So Sri Lanka is a very important element of neighborhood first policy and Mahasagar vision of India. Then Sri Lanka has supported India's candidature for non-permanent seat at UN Security Council for the tenure 2028-29. As an active member for regional platforms like BIMSTEC and IOCR, where Sri Lanka can support India's agendas at these platforms. That's why India is now promoting Sri Lanka to be a full-time member of SCO. Now next is what are the irritants here. The first and foremost irritant is Chinese influence over Sri Lanka. China is very much invested in Sri Lanka. For example, it is having a 99-year-long range on the Hambantota port under its BRI project. There are frequent visits of Chinese ships for data collection in the Indian waters. China's financial aid and infrastructure projects are expanding Beijing's leverage over Colombo, yani Chinese leverage over Sri Lanka. And due to this financial leverage only, Sri Lanka was in crisis. So this somehow creates one of the irritants between India and Sri Lanka. Now second irritant is the fishermen dispute and Kachchathivou Island, on which this particular article was. So this article was ceded to Sri Lanka through 1974 India-Sri Lanka agreement. This pact allows limited India's access, but interpretation dispute persists. So it do allow for the Indian access, but now the interpretation done by the Indian and Sri Lankan fishermen, that actually differs and it is the cause of dispute. The repeated arrest of fishermen by the Sri Lankan Navy for alleged boundary violation is one of the critical sticking points between India and Sri Lanka, and it affects the India's domestic politics as well as Sri Lanka's domestic politics. Now Tamil ethnic issue and 13th amendment, that is another issue. The Indo-Lanka Accord of 1984-7 led to 13th amendment, but the promises that were under this 13th amendment, that there will be devolution of power to the Sri Lankan Tamilians, has not been very much respected, or there are gaps in that implementation. and that is affecting India's domestic politics, and due to this domestic politics, it has become a national agenda. So this has to be done by Sri Lanka. Lastly, domestic political sensitivities that both countries are having, the influence of Tamil Nadu on India's foreign affairs, and the influence of the Sri Lankans on related with the Jaffna issue are affecting both countries' international affairs. Now, recent developments have also been there. The recent developments include that India and Sri Lanka have signed a comprehensive MOU on defense cooperation, consolidated existing understandings into a structured framework. Secondly, Sri Lanka has affirmed a no use of its territory against India, addressing the concerns over Chinese regional influence. So that is an important one, that Sri Lanka recognizes that China's influence over it is an irritant for India. That's why it has said that it will not allow Sri Lankan land to be used against any of India's interest, and it is thus satisfying India's concerns regarding the Chinese influence over Sri Lanka. Then India, Sri Lanka and UAE have now agreed to develop an energy hub in Trincomalee. Both countries have signed MOU in cooperation in the field of sharing successful digital solutions implemented at population scale for the digital transformation. So they are engaging in energy sector, they are engaging in digital sector, they are also trying to address each other's concerns. Also they are trying to overcome the irritants with respect to the prior understandings in defense and other areas. Then India has announced support for Sri Lanka's unique digital identity project. Then India has also announced to grant assistance for the development of Tirukoneshwar temple in Trincomalee, Sita Ilya temple in Nuwara Ilya, and Sacred City complex project in Anuradhapura. So these are the new developments between India and Sri Lanka. Now you are in a position to attempt the mains answer visible on the screen. With this we conclude for the day. Thank you very much.